Commander Jake Morrison watched the last human ship disappear into hyperspace. His hands gripped the metal rail of the bridge as the UES Phoenix turned away from Kepler 442. 3 months ago, this system belonged to humanity. Now it belonged to their enemies. Captain Lisa Carter walked up beside him. Her face looked tired and angry. She carried a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. The news was all bad. Their closest allies had signed a secret deal with the Vorthan Empire. The Zephyrian Commonwealth and the Alteran Federation had abandoned humanity in the middle of the worst war the galaxy had ever seen. "Sir, we just received word from the Colonial Council," Lisa said. "They want a full briefing on our losses." Jake nodded but kept staring at the empty space where human colonies used to be. 50,000 people had lived on the farming world of New Eden. Now the Vorthans controlled it. The mining stations around the gas giant produced fuel for human ships. The enemy took those too. "How many systems have we lost?" Jake asked. 17 in the past month, Lisa replied. The Zephyrians pulled their defense fleets out without warning. The Alterans closed their supply routes. Our people had no choice but to run or die. Jake felt sick. For 20 years, humans had fought alongside the Zephyrians and Alterans. They shared technology and resources. Human soldiers died protecting Zephyrian worlds. Alteran engineers helped build human space stations. It seemed like a friendship that would last forever. Dr. Nathan Brooks entered the bridge. The chief scientist looked like he had not slept in days. His uniform was wrinkled and his hair was messy. He carried several data crystals with research files. "Commander, I have the analysis you requested," Nathan said. "It's not good news." "Tell me anyway," Jake said. Nathan activated a holographic display. It showed the current military situation. Red areas marked Vorthan-controlled territory. Blue areas showed human space. Green marked the Zephyrians, and yellow showed the Alterans. The map looked terrible. Human territory had shrunk to less than half its original size. "Without alien technology and support, our war production will collapse in 6 months," Nathan explained. "The Zephyrians provided our shield generators. The Alterans supplied our weapon systems. We don't have the infrastructure to replace those resources quickly enough." Lisa added more bad news. "The betrayal wasn't just military. They froze all our trade agreements. Human merchants can't enter their space. They seized our mining operations in neutral territory. Our diplomats were expelled from every major world." Jake closed his eyes. The Human Colonial Council had trusted their alien allies completely. Now humanity stood alone against an empire that controlled half the galaxy. The Vorthans had superior numbers and technology. Their fleets outnumbered human forces 3-1. "What about Earth?" Jake asked. "Safe for now," Lisa said. "But the Vorthans are moving fleets toward the Sol system. Intelligence estimates they'll reach Earth's outer defenses in 4 months." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. If Earth fell, humanity was finished. There would be no comeback from that defeat. The Vorthans did not take prisoners. They conquered and enslaved. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. She was addressing the Colonial Council from Earth. Jake activated the main screen to watch the broadcast. Admiral Sullivan had gray hair and scars on her face from 30 years of fighting. She was the toughest human alive. "Members of the Council," Admiral Sullivan began, "we face the darkest hour in human history. Our allies have abandoned us. Our enemies grow stronger each day. Some of you want to surrender. Some of you think we should negotiate with the Vorthans." The Admiral paused and looked directly at the camera. "I have a different idea. Our so-called friends betrayed us because they thought we were weak. They believed humans could not survive without their help. Let's prove them wrong." Jake felt something stir inside his chest. Admiral Sullivan had that effect on people. She made them believe they could do impossible things. "The Zephyrians and Alterans forgot something important about humans," the Admiral continued. "We don't just adapt to survive. We evolve to conquer. For millions of years, we were the weakest species on our own planet. We had no claws or fangs or armor. But we learned to use our minds. We created tools and weapons. We built cities and ships. We turned our weaknesses into strengths. Dr. Nathan Brooks was nodding. Lisa Carter stood straighter. Even the tired crew members on the bridge seemed to wake up. The Vorthans think this war is over, Admiral Sullivan said. Our former allies think they picked the winning side. They're all about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. The broadcast ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was looking at him with hope in their eyes. They wanted to believe the Admiral's words. Jake wanted to believe, too. Set course for Earth, Jake ordered, maximum speed. Yes, sir, the pilot replied. As the Phoenix jumped into hyperspace, Jake thought about the Admiral's speech. She was right about one thing. Humans had always been survivors. They survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They survived being the weakest species on Earth by becoming the smartest. Lisa Carter stood beside him again. Do you think she has a plan? Admiral Sullivan always has a plan, Jake said. The question is whether it will work. What if it doesn't? Jake looked at the stars streaming past the ship. Somewhere out there, the Vorthon fleets were moving toward Earth. Somewhere out there, their former allies were celebrating their smart decision to join the winning side. Then we'll make a new plan, Jake said. That's what humans do. We keep trying until we win. The ship flew through space toward humanity's last stronghold. Behind them lay the wreckage of broken alliances and shattered trust. Ahead lay Earth, and whatever desperate scheme Admiral Sullivan had devised, Jake Morrison did not know if humanity could win this war. But he knew they would fight until the very end. That was the human way. That was what made them different from every other species in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the Great Betrayal. Commander Jake Morrison crouched behind a pile of twisted metal on New Pittsburgh. The industrial world looked nothing like the thriving human colony it once was. Vorthan ships filled the sky and alien soldiers patrolled the streets. But the humans had not given up. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez crawled up beside Jake. The former Marine had dirt on his face and burn marks on his armor. He carried an old human rifle modified with stolen Vorthon power cells. His eyes burned with anger that never seemed to go away. The supply convoy will pass through Sector 7 in 20 minutes, Tony whispered. Amy has the explosives ready. Jake nodded and checked his equipment. This would be their 15th attack on Vorthan supply lines. Each raid hurt the enemy, a little more. Each success proved that humans could still fight back. Amy Foster emerged from a maintenance tunnel. The young engineer had learned to move through the underground systems like a ghost. She knew every pipe and cable in the city. The Vorthans could control the surface, but the depth still belonged to humans. I've planted charges on all the primary support beams, Amy said quietly. When that convoy enters the tunnel, we'll bring half the mountain down on them. Jake smiled grimly. Amy had once designed peaceful mining equipment. Now she created weapons of war. The betrayal had changed all of them in ways they never expected. The three humans moved through the shadows toward their observation point. Around them, the city burned with alien fires. Vorthan factories processed human resources for shipment to the Empire. The occupiers treated New Pittsburgh like a conquered territory to be stripped bare. But they had made a crucial mistake. They underestimated human determination. Jake's communicator buzzed with a coded message. It came from Captain Lisa Carter, who now ran intelligence operations from hidden bases throughout human space. The message was brief but important. Their former allies were having problems with their new partners. What does it say? Tony asked. The Zephyrians are complaining about Vorthon behavior, Jake replied. Apparently the Empire is seizing Zephyrian resources without permission. The Alterans are upset about losing their trade routes to human space. Amy laughed bitterly. They thought they were joining the winning side. Now they're discovering what it means to be junior partners in a Vorthon alliance. The convoy appeared, right on schedule. 6 heavy vehicles loaded with weapons and supplies for the Vorthon military. The lead truck entered the tunnel that Amy had prepared. Jake gave the signal and explosives detonated throughout the underground passage. Rock and metal crashed down on the convoy. Flames erupted from destroyed vehicles. Vorthon soldiers scrambled for cover as human resistance fighters attacked from multiple directions. The battle was fierce but brief. When the smoke cleared, the convoy was destroyed and the humans had vanished back into the tunnels. Jake led his team through the underground maze toward their temporary base. They had converted an old mining facility into a command center. Dr. Nathan Brooks worked there with a team of human scientists and engineers. They were building something that would change the war. "Commander Morrison," Dr. Brooks said when they arrived. "Perfect timing. I want to show you our latest breakthrough." Nathan led them to a laboratory filled with captured Vorthan technology. Human technicians had been studying alien equipment for months. They were learning to understand systems that other species kept secret. "We've discovered something interesting about our enemies," Nathan explained. "The Vorthans use centralized command systems for everything. Their ships, their weapons, their communications all connect to a single network." "That sounds like a strength," Tony said. "It is," Nathan agreed. "Until someone finds a way to corrupt that network. Then their greatest strength becomes their greatest weakness." Amy studied the alien components scattered across the work tables. "You're talking about sabotage on a massive scale." "More than sabotage," Nathan said. "I'm talking about turning their own systems against them. Imagine Vorthan weapons that suddenly target Vorthan ships, communications networks that broadcast our messages instead of theirs, defense systems that protect our forces instead of their own." Jake felt excitement building in his chest. This was the kind of plan that Admiral Sullivan would approve. Instead of fighting the Vorthans with conventional tactics, humanity would use their enemies' overconfidence against them. "How long until you can make this work?" Jake asked. 6 months if we're lucky," Nathan replied. "But we need more access to their command systems. Someone has to get close enough to plant our virus in their central network." "That's a suicide mission," Tony said. "Maybe not," Amy said thoughtfully. "I've been studying Vorthan security protocols. They're good at stopping direct attacks, but terrible at detecting slow infiltration. If we could get someone inside their command structure, they might not notice until it's too late." Jake's communicator buzzed again. This time, the message came from Admiral Sullivan herself. She was implementing something called Project Prometheus. The details were classified, but the basic idea was simple. Instead of hiding and running, humanity would go on the offensive. "Change of plans," Jake announced. "We're not just fighting a resistance war anymore. Admiral Sullivan wants us to start reclaiming territory." Tony grinned for the first time in months. "About time. I'm tired of sneaking around in tunnels." "It won't be easy," Jake warned. "We're still outnumbered and outgunned. But we have advantages. They don't understand. We're adaptable, we're creative, and we're angry." Amy was already making plans. "If we coordinate attacks across multiple worlds, we can force the Vorthans to spread their forces thin. Each victory will make us stronger, and them weaker." Dr. Brooks added his own thoughts. "Every piece of technology we capture brings us closer to cracking their command network. Every battle gives us more intelligence about their tactics and weaknesses." Jake looked around the underground laboratory. 6 months ago, these people were farmers and miners and engineers living peaceful lives on human worlds. The betrayal had transformed them into soldiers and scientists and saboteurs. The Vorthans had created their own worst enemies. "Send a message to all resistance cells," Jake ordered. "Tell them we're moving to phase 2 of operations. We're done hiding. Now we hunt." The next few hours were busy with preparations. Weapons were cleaned and checked. Maps were studied and memorized. Communications networks were activated across dozens of worlds. The human resistance was about to become something much more dangerous. As Jake prepared for the next mission, he thought about their former allies. The Zephyrians and Alterans had betrayed humanity because they thought humans were weak. They had chosen what seemed like the safe option by joining the stronger side, but they were about to learn something important about human nature. Humans did not stay weak for long. They learned and adapted and evolved. They turned every setback into an opportunity. They found strength in places their enemies never thought to look. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the betrayal, Jake Morrison felt hope. Humanity was not just surviving anymore, they were preparing to strike back. Dr. Nathan Brooks stood in the center of the secret research facility hidden deep inside an asteroid. Around him, human engineers and scientists worked on projects that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The betrayal had forced humanity to innovate in ways no other species had ever imagined. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this," Nathan called out as Jake entered the laboratory. Jake walked over to where Nathan stood beside a strange-looking starfighter. The ship looked different from traditional human vessels. Its hull seemed to shimmer and change shape slightly as he watched. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. "The future of human warfare," Nathan replied proudly. "We call it adaptive combat technology. While other species build standardized equipment, we've created systems that can modify themselves during battle." Pilot Ryan Clark climbed out of the fighter's cockpit. He was grinning like a child with a new toy. Ryan had volunteered to test the experimental systems despite the obvious dangers. "Sir, you should have seen the trial run," Ryan said excitedly. "The ship literally changed shape while I was flying it. When enemy sensors tried to lock on, the hull configuration shifted and confused their targeting systems." Nathan activated a holographic display showing combat footage from the test flight. Jake watched in amazement as the fighter seemed to flow like liquid metal. Wings extended and retracted. The nose cone shifted between different configurations. Weapon ports appeared and disappeared. "How is this possible?" Jake asked. "We combined human engineering with salvaged alien technology," Nathan explained. "But we did something the aliens never thought of. Instead of using their components the way they were designed, we reverse-engineered everything and built hybrid systems." Amy Foster joined them at the display. She had been working on similar projects in other parts of the facility. The young engineer looked tired but excited. "It's not just the fighters," Amy said. "We've developed ghost ship technology too. Vessels that appear on sensors as asteroids or space debris until they're ready to attack." She activated another hologram, showing what looked like a chunk of rock floating in space. Suddenly, the rock unfolded into a fully armed patrol ship. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments and the engines ignited. "The Vorthans scan for known ship signatures," Amy explained. "They never look twice at space junk. By the time they realize what they're seeing, our ships are already in attack position." Jake felt his excitement growing. This was exactly what humanity needed. Not bigger ships or more powerful weapons, but completely new ways of fighting that their enemies would never expect. Captain Lisa Carter entered the laboratory carrying an intelligence briefing. Her expression was serious but hopeful. The spy networks she had built were providing valuable information about enemy movements and weaknesses. "Commander, we've received some interesting reports," Lisa said. "Several minor species are reaching out to us. The Korathans, the Velixians, and the Sithari Commonwealth all want to discuss mutual defense agreements." "What changed their minds?" Jake asked. "Same thing that happened to us," Lisa replied. "The major powers abandoned them when the war started. The Zephyrians and Alterans only care about protecting their own territories now. These smaller civilizations are looking for new allies." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "That could work in our favor. We don't need to rebuild our old alliances. We can create better ones based on mutual respect instead of political convenience." Amy was already thinking about practical applications. "If we share our adaptive technology with friendly species, they can modify it for their own needs. Each civilization will develop unique innovations we can learn from." Ryan Clark had been studying the intelligence reports over Lisa's shoulder. "Sir, some of these species have resources we desperately need. The Korathans mine rare minerals. The Velixians have excellent manufacturing facilities. The Sithari are master shipbuilders." Jake saw the possibilities immediately. Instead of depending on unreliable allies like the Zephyrians and Alterans, humanity could build a coalition of civilizations that had all been betrayed by the major powers. They would have common cause and shared determination. "Set up meetings with their representatives," Jake ordered. "But be careful. We can't afford to trust too quickly again." Lisa nodded. "I've already started background checks on their governments. So far they all seem genuine. The betrayal hurt them almost as much as it hurt us." Dr. Brooks called for attention from across the laboratory. "I have more good news. We've had a breakthrough with the Vorthan Command Network infiltration." Everyone gathered around Nathan's workstation. He displayed code fragments and system diagrams that looked incredibly complex, but the basic concept was simple enough to understand. We've identified the central hub that controls their fleet communications, Nathan explained. It's located on their capital world, deep underground and heavily defended. But we don't need to attack it directly. What do you mean? Jake asked. Every Vorthon ship sends status reports to the central hub every few hours, Nathan continued. If we can corrupt one of those transmissions, our virus will spread through their entire network. Amy was studying the technical specifications. The hard part is getting close enough to a Vorthon command ship to plant the virus. Their security is extremely tight. Not if they don't know we're there, Ryan said with a grin. A ghost ship could get close enough to transmit the virus without being detected. Lisa added another possibility. Or we could use our new allies. Some of the minor species still have diplomatic access to Vorthon space. They could carry the virus for us. Jake felt pieces of a larger plan starting to come together. Admiral Sullivan's Project Prometheus was beginning to make sense. Instead of fighting a conventional war, humanity would use innovation and new alliances to turn the tide. How long before we can field these new technologies in significant numbers? Jake asked. The adaptive fighters are ready for production, Nathan replied. We can have 50 units operational within 2 months. The ghost ships will take longer, maybe 4 months for a full squadron. And the virus? 2 weeks if everything goes according to plan. Jake made his decision. Begin full production immediately. Contact our potential allies and arrange formal meetings. Prepare the infiltration virus for deployment. As the team dispersed to their various tasks, Jake thought about how much had changed since the betrayal. 6 months ago, humanity had been junior partners in someone else's alliance. Now they were innovating at a pace that would have amazed their former friends. The Zephyrians and Alterans had abandoned humanity because they thought humans were weak and dependent. But they had made a crucial error in judgment. Humans were not weak when they had help. They were creative when they had to be. Now they had to be creative to survive, and the results were exceeding everyone's expectations. Jake walked over to where Ryan Clark was preparing for another test flight. The pilot was checking systems on an adaptive fighter that looked even more advanced than the previous models. How? Does it feel to fly something that changes while you're in it? Jake asked. Ryan thought for a moment. Like being part of something alive, he said finally. The ship responds to what I need before I even know I need it. It's not just a machine anymore, it's almost like a partner. That was the difference, Jake realized. Other species built tools and weapons. Humans built relationships even with their machines. They created technology that adapted and evolved and grew stronger through use. The Vorthons were about to discover that betraying humanity had unleashed something they were not prepared to face. Not just human anger or determination, but human innovation applied to the art of war. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance, as the largest human military operation in history began. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets across dozens of star systems. Today would determine whether humanity survived or fell into slavery. All units report ready, Admiral, her communications officer announced. Kate nodded grimly. She had spent months planning this counterattack. Instead of massive fleet battles that would favor the numerically superior Vorthons, humanity would fight with precision strikes and psychological warfare. Commander Jake Morrison's voice came over the secure channel from his position near the Vorthon command base on Xerion Prime. Infiltration team in position, Admiral. We have visual confirmation of the target facility. Proceed with Phase 1, Kate ordered. On the planet's surface, Jake led a small team of specialists toward the heavily defended Vorthon Communications Center. They wore advanced stealth suits that bent light around their bodies, making them nearly invisible to alien sensors. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez carried a plasma cutter designed by Amy Foster. The device could slice through Vorthon armor like paper. Behind them, Dr. Nathan Brooks monitored a portable computer system containing the virus that would corrupt the enemy command network. Guards approaching from the east, Tony whispered, into his helmet microphone. The team froze as 3 Vorthon soldiers walked past their hiding spot. The aliens wore full battle armor and carried weapons that could vaporize a human with a single shot. But they never looked down at the ground where their enemies crouched invisible just meters away. When the patrol passed, Jake signaled for movement. The team reached the outer wall of the communications facility. Tony activated his plasma cutter and began burning through the reinforced metal. The tool was completely silent and left no trace of heat signature. Meanwhile, in space above the planet, pilot Ryan Clark led a squadron of adaptive fighters against a Vorthan patrol fleet. His ship changed shape as enemy targeting systems tried to lock onto his position. Wings retracted and extended. Hull panels shifted to confuse the alien sensors. "They can't get a solid lock," Ryan reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Every time their computers think they know what we are, we become something else." The Vorthan pilots grew frustrated and began firing wildly. Their shots missed the shifting human fighters and instead struck nearby asteroids. The explosions created debris clouds that made targeting even more difficult. "Ghost Squadron, you are cleared for attack run," Admiral Sullivan commanded. Captain Lisa Carter piloted the lead Ghost ship as her squadron approached from an unexpected direction. Her vessels looked like chunks of space rock to Vorthan sensors. The enemy fleet completely ignored them until they were close enough to see individual viewports. "All ships drop camouflage and open fire," Lisa ordered. 6 ghost ships suddenly revealed themselves as fully armed warships. Their weapons struck the Vorthan fleet from point-blank range. 3 enemy vessels exploded immediately. The others scattered in panic, not understanding how the humans had gotten so close. On Zarian Prime, Jake's team had penetrated the communication center. Nathan Brooks connected his portable system to the main Vorthan network hub. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he uploaded the virus into their command system. "Uploading now," Nathan whispered. 30 seconds until the virus spreads to their fleet network. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Vorthan soldiers rushed toward their position. Tony Rodriguez set up a defensive position at the corridor entrance while Jake and Nathan finished their mission. "Upload complete," Nathan announced. "The virus is now in their system." They heard footsteps approaching rapidly. Tony opened fire with his modified rifle, cutting down the first wave of enemy soldiers. But more Vorthans kept coming. The team would have to fight their way out. In space, Admiral Sullivan watched her displays as something unprecedented began happening to the Vorthan fleets. Enemy ships were turning their weapons on each other. Communication channels filled with confused alien voices as their own systems began attacking them. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the battle zone," her intelligence officer said in amazement. "The Vorthan command network is corrupted. Their ships are targeting their own forces." Kate smiled coldly. Nathan's virus was working exactly as designed. The Vorthan's greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Their centralized command system was now under human control. "Signal all units to press the attack," Kate ordered. "Today we take back everything they stole from us." Across dozens of star systems, human forces launched coordinated strikes against Vorthan positions. On occupied worlds, resistance fighters like Tony Rodriguez began simultaneous uprisings. The enemy found themselves fighting on hundreds of fronts at once. On New Pittsburgh, Amy Foster led a team of engineers in sabotaging the Vorthan industrial complex. Explosions rocked the alien factories as critical systems overloaded. The occupiers, who had been strip mining human resources, suddenly found their own equipment turning against them. The Vorthans tried desperately to regain control of their compromised systems. But every time they attempted repairs, Nathan's virus adapted and spread further through their network. Human programmers had created something that learned and evolved faster than alien technicians could counter it. Within hours, the tide of war had completely reversed. Fourth-hand fleets that had seemed invincible were now shooting at their own ships. Ground forces received contradictory orders from their corrupted command systems. Supply lines collapsed as automated systems redirected resources to human forces. Admiral Sullivan received a priority communication from the Zephyrian Commonwealth. Their government wanted to discuss switching sides again. The Alteran Federation sent a similar message moments later. "Too late," Kate said simply, and terminated both communications. Her former allies had made their choice when they betrayed humanity. Now they would live with the consequences. The humans had found new partners among the species that the major powers had abandoned. Those alliances were based on mutual respect, not political convenience. Jake Morrison's team fought their way out of the Vorthan Communication Center as the virus completed its work. Enemy soldiers moved in confused patterns as their orders changed every few minutes. Some Vorthan units were now protecting human positions while attacking their own commanders. Extraction complete, Jake reported to Admiral Sullivan. The virus has full control of their network. Excellent work, Commander. Return to the fleet immediately. We have more targets to hit. The counterattack continued for 3 days. Human forces reclaimed system after system with minimal losses. The Vorthans could not coordinate effective resistance when their own technology worked against them. By the end of the week, Vorthan military power was broken. Their fleets were scattered, and their command structure was in chaos. The empire that had once controlled half the galaxy was now begging for terms. Admiral Sullivan stood in her ready room, reviewing casualty reports. Human losses had been surprisingly light. The adaptive technology and new tactics had worked better than anyone had dared hope. Captain Lisa Carter entered with the final intelligence summary. Admiral, we've received the Vorthan surrender offer. They're willing to return all occupied human territory and pay substantial reparations. Kate looked out at the stars through her viewport. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrians and Alterans were watching their chosen ally collapse. They were probably wondering if they had made the right decision. They will learn soon enough, Kate said quietly. Send word to the Vorthan leadership. We'll accept nothing less than unconditional surrender, and inform our former allies that humanity remembers its friends. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked through the marble halls of the former Vorthan Imperial Palace. 6 months had passed since the Empire's unconditional surrender. Now this magnificent building served as the headquarters of the Terran hegemony. The Etam galaxy had a new master, and its name was humanity. Commander Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, waited for her in what used to be the Emperor's throne room. The ornate Vorthan symbols had been replaced with simple human emblems. The message was clear. A new era had begun. Admiral Sullivan, Jake said formally, the Galactic Assembly is ready for your address. Kate nodded and straightened her uniform. Today she would speak to representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. They had come to hear humanity's terms for the new galactic order. They would not like what they heard. The assembly hall was packed with alien diplomats. Zephyrians and Alterans sat in the front rows, looking nervous and defeated. Behind them were delegates from dozens of other species, all waiting to learn their fate under human rule. Kate walked to the podium and looked out at the sea of alien faces. Many of them had celebrated when their governments betrayed humanity. They had thought they were backing the winning side. Now they knew better. Representatives of the galaxy, Kate began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. 6 months ago, many of you believed humanity was finished. Our closest allies abandoned us. Our enemies seemed unstoppable. You thought we were weak and dependent on your goodwill. She paused and let the words sink in. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. You were wrong about everything, Kate continued. Humanity is not weak. We are not dependent. And we do not forget betrayal. In the audience, former Zephyrian Ambassador Krell lowered his head. He had personally delivered the message that ended the alliance with humanity. At the time, it had seemed like a smart political move. Now it looked like the worst mistake in his species' history. The old galactic order is dead, Kate announced. The system based on shifting alliances and temporary convenience has failed. In its place, we establish the Terran hegemony. Humanity will lead. Others will follow. Those who prove their loyalty will prosper. Those who oppose us will face the consequences. Captain Lisa Carter watched from the side of the hall as the alien delegates absorbed the implications. Her intelligence networks now covered the entire galaxy. Every species was monitored and evaluated. None of them could move without human knowledge. The new system was already taking effect throughout former enemy territory. Dr. Nathan Brooks oversaw the confiscation of alien research facilities and technological archives. Centuries of scientific advancement that other species had hoarded for themselves now belonged to humanity's growing knowledge base. On dozens of worlds, Amy Foster's engineering teams dismantled Vorthan factories and rebuilt them for human use. The industrial capacity that once supported the enemy war machine now served humanity's expansion into every corner of the galaxy. The Terran hegemony operates on simple principles, Admiral Sullivan explained to the assembly. Strength determines authority. Results matter more than promises. Loyalty is rewarded, and betrayal is punished. She gestured to the human officers standing around the hall. Every system, every resource, every trade route that was once shared with our former allies now belongs exclusively to humanity and our coalition partners. The coalition partners were the smaller species that had joined humanity during the dark days after the betrayal. The Korathans, Velixians, and Sithari Commonwealth now enjoyed privileged status in the new order. They had proven their loyalty when it mattered most. Sephirian Ambassador Krell raised his hand nervously. Admiral Sullivan, what about existing treaties and trade agreements? Kate looked at him coldly. What treaties? You broke them all when you abandoned us. What trade agreements? You froze them all when you thought we were defeated. The Alteran delegate tried to speak. Surely there can be some arrangement for mutual benefit. There is, Kate replied. You can apply for trading privileges like everyone else. You can pay the fees and submit to inspections like everyone else. You can beg for access to markets you once took for granted. Admiral Morrison stepped forward and activated a holographic display showing the new galactic map. Human territory was marked in blue and now covered most of known space. Former enemy worlds were shown in red, indicating direct human control. Yellow areas marked the territories of loyal coalition partners. Every ship wanting to pass through human space must pay substantial fees, Jake explained. Every cargo must be inspected for contraband. Every communication must be monitored for security threats. These measures will remain in effect indefinitely. The alien delegates were beginning to understand the full scope of their new reality. The beings who once treated humans as junior partners now had to beg for basic trading rights. In the months following the surrender, the transformation had been swift and merciless. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez, now a colonel, oversaw the establishment of human-controlled checkpoints throughout former enemy territory. No ship moved without human permission. No cargo transferred without human inspection. The economic impact was devastating for humanity's former allies. The Zephyrian Commonwealth lost access to 70% of its traditional trade routes. The Alteran Federation found its merchant fleets blocked from the most profitable markets. Both civilizations were sliding toward economic collapse. Meanwhile, humanity's new coalition partners thrived under the protection of the Terran hegemony. The Korathans expanded their mining operations with human technology. The Velixians built new factories with human investment. The Sithari launched exploration fleets toward previously unknown regions of space. The galaxy has learned an important lesson, Admiral Sullivan told the assembly. Trust and friendship are not weaknesses if they are based on genuine mutual respect. But betrayal has consequences that last for generations. She looked directly at the Zephyrian and Alteran delegates. You taught us that loyalty means nothing in galactic politics. You showed us that alliances are just temporary conveniences. You demonstrated that strength is the only thing that matters. The alien diplomats sat in uncomfortable silence. They knew what was coming next. Thank you for that education, Kate said with a cold smile. Now you will live under the system you created. The strong will dominate the weak. The victors will claim everything. The losers will accept whatever scraps they are given. The transformation was already visible throughout the galaxy. Human colonies expanded into systems that once belonged to the Vorthan Empire. Human corporations took over alien businesses and industries. Human culture spread to worlds that had never seen a human before the war. But it was not just about revenge or conquest. Under human leadership, the galaxy was becoming more stable and prosperous than it had been in centuries. The Terran hegemony eliminated the constant shifting of alliances that had caused so many conflicts. Species that accepted human authority found protection and economic opportunity. Admiral Sullivan concluded her address with words that would echo through history. The age of human dominance has begun. We did not seek this position, but we will not abandon it. We will rule fairly but firmly. We will protect our friends and punish our enemies. And we will never again allow anyone to threaten the survival of humanity. The assembly hall erupted in nervous chatter as the alien delegates discussed what they had heard. Some seemed resigned to their fate. Others appeared to be plotting resistance. A few looked hopeful about finding ways to prove their loyalty to the new order. Admiral Morrison approached Kate as the delegates filed out. "Think any of them will try to rebel?" "Some will," Kate replied calmly, "and we'll crush them quickly to discourage the others. The galaxy needs to understand that human rule is permanent and absolute." Later that evening, Kate stood on the palace balcony overlooking the former Vorthan capital city. Human flags flew from every building. Human patrol ships moved through the sky. Human soldiers walked the streets with confidence and authority. Jake Morrison joined her at the railing. "Any regrets about how things turned out?" Kate considered the question seriously. "I regret that it came to this. I regret that we couldn't maintain peaceful relationships with our neighbors. But I don't regret doing what was necessary to ensure human survival." "And the future?" "The future belongs to humanity," Kate said firmly. "Our former allies will spend generations paying for their betrayal. Our enemies have learned not to underestimate human determination. Our new friends know the value of genuine loyalty." She gestured toward the stars visible above the city. "Out there, human fleets patrol every major shipping route. Human colonies are being established on the best worlds. Human technology is advancing faster than ever before. We have claimed everything that was promised to us and everything that was denied." Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. "The Zephyrians and Alterans must be wondering what would have happened if they had stayed loyal. They would have been junior, partners in a human-led coalition instead of beggars hoping for scraps from human tables," Kate replied. "Their betrayal taught us that we cannot rely on anyone but ourselves and those who prove their worth through actions, not words."